BioProcess International Ask the Expert webcast. I'm your host, Leah Rosen, online editor for BioProcess International. Before we get started, just a couple of notes. This webcast is being recorded and will be made available for replay in the multimedia section of our website. We've muted the audio lines, but we welcome you to type in your questions for our speaker in the chat window on your screen. After the presentation, we will begin the question and answer portion, and I will ask our speaker your questions from the chat window. Your questions in the chat window will only be visible to myself and our speaker. So thank you for joining us today. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Ray Marzouk from Avid Bioservices.
Thank you, Leah, and thanks to everyone in the audience for joining this webinar. Before I begin, I'd like to give you a brief overview of Avid Bioservices. We are a fully dedicated CDMO of biologics located in Orange County, California. We operate 2 cGMP manufacturing facilities on the same site and have stainless steel as well as single-use configurations ranging from 100-liter to 2,000-liter bioreactors. Avid has over 25 years of biologics manufacturing experience, 13 of those involving cGMP commercial manufacturing. As such, we have an extensive regulatory track record, including 6 successful pre-approval inspections. For those of you not familiar with the Avid story, our history dates back to 1993 with R&D manufacturing operations that began in the Orange County facility. In 2002, Avid Bioservices was officially formed as a subsidiary of Peregrine Pharmaceuticals, and in 2005, obtained its first commercial approval from the FDA. In 2012, Avid received its first EMA commercial approval, and in 2016 commissioned a second state-of-the-art cGMP facility dedicated to single-use technology. In January 2018, Peregrine Pharmaceuticals was dissolved and Avid Bioservices was launched as a fully dedicated CDMO. Avid's mission is to improve patient lives by consistently delivering high-quality biopharmaceutical products. We offer end-to-end solutions from process development through commercial supply. We stand apart from our peers by partnering with our clients to offer a collaborative approach and flexible manufacturing options in a cost-effective and timely manner, thereby ensuring success of their program. Most importantly, we pride ourselves on our industry-leading regulatory track record, which includes over 13 years of successful inspection history. Since commercial approval in 2005, Avid has been inspected by several regulatory agencies from around the world, including EMA, ANVISA, and Health Canada. With 6 successful PAIs and numerous FDA inspections, the last 4 of which have all resulted in 0483s, Avid Bioservices takes its responsibility of ensuring patient safety seriously, which leads us to the topic of this webinar, preparing for and managing regulatory inspections. As Benjamin Franklin famously said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So the first step in ensuring a successful inspection is making sure you have a plan in place. This means having a written SOP for managing regulatory inspections and having the appropriate personnel trained. You'll want to include instructions for the receptionist on how to greet and check in the investigator, including following your own SOPs for visitor control. You'll want to have a phone tree for the receptionist on who to contact from the top down in case the quality head is not on site. Make sure you have your front room and back room support rooms identified and a system for notifying your inspection management team. Include in your SOP how you will go about conducting the inspection, including making sure you verify credentials and have a system for delivering and tracking document and sample requests. Having an SOP is nice, but how efficiently you execute it is key to getting the inspection off to the right foot. So my first recommendation is to periodically perform an unannounced mock investigator arrival. See how quickly your firm can respond to an unannounced inspection and how efficiently they can get your audit room set up and ready to go. Having a written plan in place that everyone is trained to follow will ease the tension and nerves when an inspector surprisingly shows up at your door. That brings me to my next recommendation for inspection preparation, and that is training. Prepare your SMEs on how to interact with investigators. This includes things like being truthful in your response and only answering the questions being asked. The fact of the matter is some SMEs perform better with investigator interaction than others. However, preparing your SMEs on what to expect during an inspection will go a long way in easing their comfort level when they are in the hot seat. I'll get into some of the do's and don'ts for SMEs later on in the presentation. Going over the logistics of inspection management with your backroom support team should not be overlooked. Confirm that you have sufficient backroom support personnel trained on your inspection management logistics. I can guarantee you that someone from your A team will be out of the office when an investigator unexpectedly arrives. So having trained backups to your backroom support team is key. Again, you'll want to perform a mock inspection to see how quickly your team can respond to document requests. You'll also want to use this exercise to evaluate your SME's performance when interacting with an investigator. This will not only provide them with a training opportunity, but it will provide you with an idea of which SMEs you are comfortable with bringing into the front room. No amount of preparation will get you through an inspection if you don't have strong quality systems that you comply with throughout the year. This, in my opinion, is the most critical element in determining success or failure during an inspection. This also means making sure your documentation can speak for itself. And what I mean by that is the less SME interaction that is needed to answer investigators' questions, the better off you are. The best way to do that is making sure your documentation, whether it be SOPs, protocols, reports, or discrepancy records, are thorough and tell the whole story in a clear manner. There is nothing more frustrating than trying to address an investigator's question when the report you are reading is incomplete, or worse yet, incomprehensible. Finally, complacency is the enemy of compliance. Make certain that your organization embraces continuous improvement and stays on top of regulatory and industry trends. Perform routine internal audits to ensure that your firm is complying with its SOPs. If you do have gaps that are identified, document it and have a justification and defense strategy in place on how to present it should it come up during an inspection. Managing the inspection. Let's go over a quick checklist of what to do when an investigator arrives. You're going to want to reserve and set up your conference rooms. There should be a front room where the audit will be conducted with the investigator, as well as a support room that will be used for document retrieval and SME preparation. Don't forget to clear the front room of any documentation and erase any whiteboards prior to bringing the investigator into the room. Immediately notify the organization that a regulatory authority is on site so they can be mindful of any hallway conversation and so immediate sweeps of their area can be performed. Review the investigator's credentials, and when you bring the investigator into the front room, make sure to establish the scope of the inspection. Like everything, you only have one chance to make a good first impression. This means having your executive management team present at the open. It shows their commitment to ensuring a smooth inspection and that they take the outcome seriously. Finally, it is helpful to have an opening presentation ready if the investigator allows it. This would include things like org charts, facility layouts, and brief quality system overview. This also helps to set the tone for the inspection, and it provides an opportunity for you to share your quality culture. Ensuring a successful inspection outcome is truly a team effort, and every role is critical. The host is the gateway for the inspection. They control the overall flow and direction that the inspection is headed. Based on the type of document requests that are received, they can arrange the order in which documents are presented to the investigator. They know when to step in if things are moving in an unfavorable direction, and to a certain degree they can assist SMEs who are addressing questions with the investigator. Like any other visitor in your facility, the host needs to ensure that investigators are following your SOPs while they are on site. They need to know where the investigators are at all times and that they are not left unattended. And don't be afraid to check in with the investigator. From time to time, ask them if they have everything they need. Ask them if they are receiving documents in a timely manner. This will give you a feel of how the inspection is progressing and what things you may need to improve on with respect to logistics. The job of the scribe is to document everything that occurs during the inspection. This is your record of the inspection. That means documenting questions and answers, keeping track of requests, and knowing what documents the investigator would like to take with them. They are the link between the support room and the host and can help to track the progress of requests. Don't underestimate the job of this scribe. Perhaps the most crucial members of your inspection team and the unsung heroes of an inspection are the backroom support personnel. Their main responsibility is to retrieve document requests in a timely fashion. I'll get into the importance of this aspect of the inspection in a little bit. They also need to review the documentation prior to delivery to the front room. They need to verify that all references in a document request are readily available if asked, and alert the host if there are any gaps in the documentation before it is presented to the investigator. Along those lines, the backroom personnel acts as a liaison between the front room and SMEs. This is where SMEs can strategize and rehearse their responses prior to entering the front room. It may even be an opportunity to put together a short presentation to handle challenging topics or major issues. The role of the SME is a difficult one. You need to answer questions truthfully, yet be careful not to volunteer any information that is not asked for. This means clarifying the investigator's question and only answering the question being asked. Don't assume anything. Also, you don't want to insult the investigator's intelligence by coming off as being arrogant or condescending. Finally, a good SME has the ability to handle high-stress situations and stay calm. Moving on to the inspection logistics, all investigators will want to go for a tour of the facility. It is helpful if you have a pre-planned route that makes sense. For example, you may want to follow the process flow, starting from raw material receipt all the way through the finished goods shipping. It's important to have someone walk through the tour route ahead of the investigator and perform a quick sweep. Confirm that there are sufficient lab coats, gowns, goggles for the investigators. Remember, you may have to be flexible if the investigator wants to see something not on the pre-planned tour route. However, make sure they are escorted at all times and that there is a scribe available to document all requests. In terms of document flow, have a system in place for logging in the requests for tracking purposes. Keep track of which documents the investigator would like to take with them and make sure they are stamped confidential. When there are multiple investigators, have a system in place that can track which investigator asks for which request. Make sure the runner provides document requests to the host and not directly to the investigator, as you want your host to control the direction of the inspection. Your system should also have a mechanism for closing out a request so your host knows what is still outstanding. With respect to investigator interaction, remember that silence is your friend. Don't feel compelled to fill airtime by volunteering information. Directly answer the question, nothing more, nothing less. For example, if the investigator asks how many OOS events you've had in the past 6 months, respond with a number, but don't ask if they want to see a list or offer up that they were all for one product. Directly answer the question and only provide what they request. Transparency plus timeliness equals trust. As you consider your inspection management strategy, remember to be truthful in your responses and fulfill document requests in a timely manner. Investigators are there to evaluate and document objective evidence about the state of your GMP operations. Delays in retrieving documentation can lead to an investigator getting bored, frustrated, or impatient. It gives the impression that you don't have control over your systems, or worse, it may raise suspicion that you are cooking up something in the back room. Not to mention that delays give more time for the investigator to think of additional questions or ask for more document requests. The quicker you can provide document requests, the quicker you can build the trust with the investigator that you are in control of your quality systems. It sets the tone for the entire inspection process. Now, I'd like to share a few inspection management strategies. First, clearly define the scope of requests. Sometimes investigators may ask open-ended questions and leave it up to you to determine exactly what they want. For example, they may ask, "I'd like to see a list of discrepancy records." Instead of immediately providing them your entire archive of discrepancy records, clearly define the scope. What time period are they looking for? Are they interested in certain products? Next, keep document requests flowing. I mentioned this in the previous slide, but I can't overemphasize how important this is in ensuring a smooth inspection. Know how far to go when defending your position. Every investigator has their own opinion. Don't be afraid to challenge if the facts are on your side, but be respectful of their opinion. If there are gaps that are identified and that you acknowledge, it may not be a bad idea to immediately implement corrective actions and show that to the investigator. It shows your commitment to continuous improvement, and although it won't necessarily get you out of an observation, it does go a long way in the overall impression the investigator has of your quality culture. Be careful, however. There is a delicate balance, as you don't want to immediately implement a corrective action for the sake of implementing one. You may regret this later on. The next strategy is to rely on documentation and SOPs to guide your response. In other words, use the documentation and SOPs you have in front of you to your advantage. Read and review them before immediately providing a response. Don't provide a response you think is correct later to find out that it's inconsistent with what your SOP is stating. Stay on the script, which is your documentation. Finally, stay calm and be cool. Investigators are watching you more than you think. No matter what the circumstances, stay calm and show that you are in control of the situation and confident in your quality systems. I'd like to finish with some final thoughts. The regulatory authority has a critical responsibility of protecting the public and ensuring patient safety. It's important that we do our job in assisting them in that endeavor. To that end, if you take nothing else from this presentation, it should be these 2 points. Compliance to established quality systems throughout the year will determine the success or failure of your inspection. And with respect to inspection management, transparency plus timeliness equals trust. If you keep these 2 key points in mind, I can assure you that more often than not, you will come away with a successful inspection outcome. With that, I'd like to thank you for listening to this webinar. At this time, I'd like to open it up for any questions.
Great, thanks, Ray. So the first question is, what do you do if multiple inspectors want to split up?
That's a good question. You definitely want to try to keep them in the same room. So if possible, make sure your front room is large enough that you would be able to split up the investigators in different corners of the room. But from a logistics standpoint, it's much easier to keep all the investigators in the same room if possible.
What if an investigator wants to take pictures of your facilities?
Unfortunately, you really don't have a choice here. There is legal precedent for investigators being able to take pictures. So it's important that from the take those same pictures for your records.
Okay. I think that's all the questions we have at the moment. If you have any follow-up questions, you can enter them now, or you'll receive contact information with the on-demand version. So thank you for joining us today. The recorded version of this webcast will be available for on-demand viewing on our website, and as a registered attendee, you'll receive a follow-up email providing you with a direct link. We look forward to seeing you at future webcasts. Look for those announcements in your inbox. Goodbye.